From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Friday, July 7th, 2017. Silver is trading at $15.92 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,223 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 2 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $2,545. Antiwar.com reports Secretary of State Rex Tillerson revealed that discussions with Russia are likely during the G20 summit with a focus on issues related to the Syrian war, including humanitarian aid and the possibility of mutually imposing a no-fly zone in parts of the country. Tillerson suggested that such a deal could greatly improve military-to-military communications between the U.S. and Russia, which have been strained during the war as the two sides often find themselves with conflicting goals. Tillerson's comments on enforcing no-fly zones may suggest that there is no expectation that U.S. and Russian planes would actually abide by the no-fly zones imposed, but that this would rather be limitations imposed on other nations involved in the fighting. This is a potential complication for such a deal either way, as the U.S. would doubtless expect a no-fly zone to primarily limit the Syrian government strikes against rebel forces, while Russia would likely not want to limit their allies so much as limit the chances of the U.S. coalition getting into air battles with the Syrian government's air force. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports the Illinois legislature on Thursday voted to override the governor and usher in a new tax hike and balance the budget, something the state hasn't been able to do in more than 2 years. A bipartisan Illinois House voted 72-41 to supersede Governor Bruce Rauner, fearing they would only lead to more tax increases in the near future. Thursday's vote marked the first time since 2015 that the state passed a measure to balance the budget. House Speaker Michael Madigan said Republicans and Democrats stood together to enact a bipartisan balanced budget and end a destructive 736-day impasse. The people in this chamber did not do what was easy, but we did what was right for the future of our state. Rauner countered, today was another step in Illinois' never-ending tragic trail of tax hikes. Madigan's 32% permanent income tax increase will force another tax hike in the near future. His tax and spend plan is not balanced, does not cut enough spending or pay down enough debt, and does not help grow jobs or restore confidence in government. A number of Republicans and Democrats both voted in favor of and against the veto override. Representative Steve Anderson said, I believe it's a historic day because it's a day where we decide the fate of our state. Do we want to save it or do we want to let it go into a meltdown? Representative David McSweeney said, what we do know for sure is that the budget is going to hurt people. We've all heard from our constituents. They're wondering how they're going to pay their high property taxes. They're wondering how they're going to pay their living expenses because we're raising their income tax rate by 32%. And what do we get? Nothing. In 2115 New England, there are no borders, no states, and no regulations, yet never has a more peaceful and prosperous place existed. Faced with the prospect of waning power, Mr. Drake intends to replace the anarchy of New England with a government. Anarchy in New England by Joe Jarvis is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Reuters reports private employers in the United States hired fewer workers than expected in June, and applications for unemployment benefits last week increased for a third straight week, pointing to some loss of momentum in job growth as the labor market nears full employment. Those signs were also evident in another report on Thursday showing growth in service industry employment slowing in June, even as the sector continued to expand at a healthy clip. The moderation in job gains likely reflects difficulties by employers finding suitable workers amid an unemployment rate that is at a 16-year low. The ADP National Employment Report showed private sector payrolls increased by 158,000 jobs last month, stepping down from the 230,000 positions created in May and below the expectations of 185,000 new jobs. In a separate report, the Labor Department said initial claims for state unemployment benefits increased 4,000 to a seasonally adjusted 248,000 for the week ending July 1st. It was the third straight weekly increase in unemployment claims. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.